They say that podcast guesting is the new guest blogging. And so I'm kind of curious, how is it that you choose which podcast you're on? How do you even pitch people? Tell me spill all the tea.
Yes. In the beginning, right, there's a lot of outreach that you have to do to get the momentum going. Here's what I want to let people know in terms of kind of thinking about their long-term business model. It gets easier. In fact, it gets so ridiculously easy that we'll talk about this from two different directions, right? Because you talked about being a guest and then being a host, right? So as a guest, we'll talk about that because that's pretty quick. Is that in the beginning, yes, my recommendation is that you aim for small shows, people that are at your level of authority or smaller. Okay. And there's so many reasons why I think that that's just good business practice. Number one is the bigger shows, they get hit up a lot. I get about 15 inquiries every single week for the thoughtful entrepreneur. And I have a pretty tight requirement in order to be a guest. But that said, when you aim for smaller shows, number one is you're going to get practice. I know you know this, Ashley. Every podcaster will tell you this. Your first 10, 20, 30 shows, they're going to be they're going to be good, not great. And you will get so much better as you go. So what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to pitch a bigger show. And let's say you do get placed, right? Number one is just like in media, right? Because my background is in media consulting and training and PR. And so people would come and say, hey, can you get me on the Today Show? And the answer is like, yeah, it's going to take us a year or two. But if you're really committed to it, we can aim for that. And so they say, wait a minute, a year or two? No, I want them to book me next week. I'm like, yeah, well, tell me about all the media that you've done already. And they're like, none. And I'm like, well, there you go. So you have to honor the path, right? So you either have to earn your stripes somewhere, right? So if you want to be a guest on podcast, be prepared to share when you're presenting yourself as a guest to be a guest on a podcast. Be prepared to share. Here's where I've been before. Here were the results. Here's how I promoted that episode very heavily to my own audience, so we could create a great win-win together. And here is anytime I pitch the media, it's always about here's what's in it for you. Nothing to do with what's in it for me. And that's a really good philosophy when you're reaching out and you want that visibility. So yeah, so start small. Please start small. And then my recommendation is you could either work with agencies, you could work with an expert, you can work with someone that knows the ropes a little bit. They can certainly speed up the process. But I think really it is just about authentic one-to-one communication. Resist the urge to send out email blasts to podcasters. Please do not do that. We know what you're doing. We don't like it. So I'll just speak on behalf of other podcasts. Maybe some podcasters do like it. I don't. My recommendation would be spend more time with fewer people, spend quality, authentic time in your communication. It's absolutely worth it. You'll get way more bang for the buck rather than just trying to blast everybody. So ignore any guru out there that tells you to do that. Don't do that.